Hi, everyone, and welcome to the preview show delivered by FedEx. I'm Marty Snider from NBC Sports. This guy right here in the black shirt. He's not a bad guy, though. Chris Rice from NTS Motorsports, also right here at NASCAR.com. And boy, Joey Logano just laid it to him at Charlotte, didn't he? And this is a guy in the 22 team who kind of off the radar, really, at New Hampshire and Dover. Didn't quite have the runs maybe we expected them to have. Has the 22 team reestablished themselves now as a championship threat?
Well, I've picked them from the get-go to win the championship, so I'm glad Todd Gordon and those guys got it back on track. But they're a little off the radar. They really wasn't that good the last couple of races, but the Penske cars are really good at making overall grip. And at Charlotte, when the sun comes out, you need a lot of grip because that's a very temperamental racetrack. Well,
and as Joey told me at New Hampshire and Dover, those are kind of one-off tracks in the chase, so they weren't too worried about it, and they proved why. They came back with tons of speed at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That brings us to the updated chase grid. Check it out. Obviously, Joey Logano on top of the new chase grid, Kevin Harvick in second. But we got to talk, Chris, about those guys on the bottom. Boy, did a lot of chasers have trouble at Charlotte. We'll start with Matt Kenseth, who is on the very bottom right now. And I'm wondering from the 20 team, they've been in a position of power the whole year. Now they've got to come from behind. How will they react to that? And where do you feel better about their chances at Kansas or Talladega to advance themselves to round 3?
Well, I like Kansas. And you know, they've always had speed. Joe Gibbs Racing they're going to be really fast at Kansas. I mean, that's a place that I'm picking them just the whole group to be really fast. It's smooth. The tire's going to fit them. You know, it might not fit Kyle Busch as good, but I really like Matt Kenseth to do well there.
They're always very strong there. And I'm wondering, is it a must-win for the 20 team? Do they have to win to advance?
They gotta finish top 5. I'm not going to say they got to win, but they got to finish top 5.
All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr. also with some issues, several issues at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Kept running into the wall. In fact, Jr. said after the race, I lost count of how many times I did hit the wall. So for Jr. and his race team, I'm curious. He, after the race, didn't seem too upset. He seemed like, hey, I still feel good about this round. They finished 3rd at Kansas in the spring, 1 Talladega. So if you're Dale Earnhardt Jr., are you worried at this point, or do you go, you know what, we've got Talladega in our back pocket, and we're always going to be good there?
Well, when Dale Earnhardt Jr. is good, he does not worry because that's the way his dad was. He is really good at Kansas, but I still feel, you know what, Hendrick Motorsports doesn't have it all together yet to be able to beat the Penske's, the SHR, you know, the Gibbs cars. So I'm a little worried for Junior Nation.
Crazy incident with Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson coming onto pit road. You don't see this happen very often. Kyle Larson afterwards went on social media, said, hey, my fault, took all the blame for it. But really, from your perspective, Chris, whose fault was that?
Kyle Larson's. You know, he was not going to make the cone. If we watched the incident, he was not going to be able to make the cone. He was going to turn off the racetrack and either hit the cone or something like that. But Kyle Busch does what we do a lot. We'll fake pit, you know, and then we'll go back out. And there was Kyle Larson, and it tore up the right front of Kyle Busch's car and kind of ruined his day.
Yeah, it did put them back in the field, no doubt about it. Kansas this weekend. Not one of Kyle Busch's best racetrack, but Dave Rogers, his former crew chief, and I were talking last week, and he said he's more worried about Kansas than he is Talladega. He thinks it's as big of a wild card as Talladega is. What makes Kansas such a tough race?
Well, I think you told me a little earlier when we was talking about this. The biggest problem is Dave Rogers was with Kyle Busch for so long and all the wrecks. People spin out by themselves there, and it's due to the tire. The racetrack's getting older, and if you remember, we have less horsepower this year, so our center speed through the center of the corner has to be a lot faster. So the tire just can't take it, and they end up having the car really loose, and they end up spinning out, ending up in a crash, and that happens in traffic too on restarts. You got to be able to go on restarts.
And you think about the spring race, Jimmy Johnson, who won the race, spun out by himself. So it does happen quite a bit. All right, let's talk about this race and how important it is. You know, Todd Gordon told me other than Homestead, obviously that's the biggest race of the year in terms of the chase and trying to win a championship. He felt like Charlotte's the other most important race in the chase, and then Kansas. Is there going to be a bigger dogfight to get to victory lane this weekend because everybody wants to be locked in before you get to Talladega?
We're going to see a lot of restarts get a little crazy. I mean, because we seen it at Charlotte. Restarts were huge. They've opened up the restart zone, and that's, you know, that's created a little bit of havoc back in the field. But I'm telling you, you got to make it on your restarts. You got to pass people because we don't see a lot of passing when we get single file because the arrow, you just can't pass. We're all arrow dependent, so you get out or you get behind somebody and you push. You see them, they all run the same speed because they're all the same cars now.
So the intensity picks up a little bit this weekend is what you're saying.
Absolutely. You've seen it in my voice. I was ready.
Exactly right. All right, time for us to make some picks. Who are you going with this weekend, Chris?
Well, I'm worried about whoever you pick, and because we've seen what happened to Matt Kenseth at Charlotte, and that's who
I didn't help
Marty
Matt
picked. But I'm going with the 41. I just think they're sitting there and they're just riding along. They're just, hey, top 5 at Charlotte. I really like Kurt Busch to go out and win. They're always really fast at a place that you got to keep your car good and tight when you're driving off the right front tire. So I like Kurt Busch to go out and win.
Think about the speed that they had at Chicago. Should make sense. None of us are going to pick Kevin Harvick, which is unbelievable. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. And yes, I know this has been a rough racetrack for Kyle Busch in his career. Did get a top 5 in this race last year. I think the Gibbs cars are going to have incredible speed. You mentioned that a moment ago. I think qualifying is going to be huge this weekend, being up front, track position. So I think Kyle Busch is going to be pretty strong.
I'm sorry, Kyle Busch fans.
Hopefully I do not hex Kyle Busch this weekend. Make sure you park it right here on NASCAR.com all weekend long. Live leaderboards, in-car audio, and of course, after the Kansas race, the updated chase grid will know who's in trouble going into Talladega, and that's going to be something all the drivers and teams are going to want to check out this week, certainly as well. Enjoy the Kansas race weekend, everyone. We'll be back here next week to preview Talladega. See you then.